Martin. I'm the Executive Director here at Hourglass, and I'd like to welcome you to today's First Friday Forum with Lancaster City Mayor Danene Sorace. Mayor Sorace started her second term in office here in January. Today she plans to review some of her accomplishments from her first term and outline her priorities for 2022, including strong neighborhoods, safe places, sustainable economy, and sound government, including fighting for fair state policies for cities. After her talk, we will have time for questions from the audience, and if you're joining us via the live stream, you can drop those questions in the chat. I'd like to thank Mayor Sorace for taking time out of her very busy schedule to be with us today. And I'd also like to thank our First Friday Forum sponsor, Rogers & Associates, and Millersville University and the Ware Center for hosting us here today. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Mayor Sorace, and thank you again for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am delighted for those of you who are here in the room and for those that are joining us virtually to dial in on this rainy Friday afternoon. I am really feeling like the turning of the calendar from January to February has me very hopeful for spring, and every day that it's a little bit lighter as I'm leaving the office feels better. And I think spring is going to be especially special this year as we are coming out of this last round of COVID infections. And I also just want to say how grateful I am to all of the healthcare institutions and healthcare workers who have been working to help keep us safe and take care of us when we have gotten sick. It has been a momentous challenge, and I have been tracking the data in our local hospitals through this last round, and it's just been breathtaking. The climb, but now also the fall, which is really exciting to see the numbers really diminishing over time every day. So today, as Diana said, I want to share with you some of the things that I'm most proud of from my first term and talk about the second term, which has just started a month in, and wow, did that month already go fast. So building a stronger Lancaster block by block, and the first 4 years. So these aren't in any particular order, but I did just want to talk about some of the things that I'm most proud of. And this is a very abbreviated list. These are probably the things that you may know most about, but there's been a lot of behind the scenes, in the weeds, organizational work that we've been doing as well inside city government. But for sure, the funding for lead remediation that we received from HUD, we are in an amazing company in terms of the other cities that received these awards. And we are also the city that is producing the most despite COVID. And so nationally, Lancaster is recognized, and we are on the map for this work, and I am very proud of our team. I'm also very excited that LGH and Penn Medicine joined the effort and came on board with a $50 million commitment to support the areas of the city that we can't serve through our HUD funding, but also the rest of the county, because lead poisoning is not just a city issue, it is a county issue, and it is because we are an older community, one of the oldest in the country, and so this is the work that we have before us. Also launching the Department of Neighborhood Engagement. I'll be talking more about that as we go along. Becoming a certified welcoming city. This is really lent itself to our work with a refugee community, a new American community, and also longtime city residents as well. And a welcoming city is really for everyone. It's not just for new residents, whether English is your first language or it's not, but it's really strengthening the ways in which we as a city are welcoming everyone that is coming into the city of Lancaster. And it is especially true that we are doing a lot more around language access. The number 2 most frequented request for translation within city government is, can you guess? Spanish is the first. You would probably guess that. But can you guess what the second language is? Matt, you can't guess. Anybody? Nope, but that's a good guess. It's Swahili. which is really interesting. And so it just gives you a sense of the vast diversity of residents that call Lancaster their home, and the work that we're doing to make sure that all of the city services are accessible to everyone, despite any language barriers. Successfully securing ownership of a fiber optic cable. You have all heard about MAW. That was on day one, 4+ years ago, the first thing that we started working on, and to finally get ownership of that is monumental, and I never, ever thought it would take 4 years. And so we are pleased that we have that now and are going to be working towards what the future is of that fiber optic cable, and you'll be hearing more about that in the next several months. Securing the largest investment in affordable housing. This is also monumental because we were able to negotiate with UPMC and the developer of 250 College Avenue for the dedication of 3 parcels of property that would be cultivated specifically for affordable housing. And those carve-outs of property in partnership with UPMC and the developer, Washington Equity Partners, means that we are going to add more than 100 units of affordable housing, new affordable housing to the city, something that hasn't been done in generation. And then finally, supporting public safety. That looks a couple of different ways. One, if you drive down King Street, you'll see a new station on West King Street and a station that's under construction on East King. We've invested in apparatus. And on the police station side, we're about to embark on some pretty significant restoration of that facility, as well as the changes that we've been making in terms of instituting body cameras, which is a very successful initiative that our officers feel good about, and also our community, as well as some policy changes in the work that's happening there. So this is just a few of accomplishments that I'm most proud of. And I do want to just talk a little bit about COVID, because we've done much of this, and all of you, the same, have continued to do this work in the shadow of a pandemic. And I can't say enough about our team for maintaining operations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You hear stories, and I see them from other mayors about problems that they have picking up trash, problems that they have in terms of maintaining their parks. It's not to say that we haven't had hiccups, or, knock on wood, that we're not going to continue to have hiccups or more hiccups, but we have figured it out, and that's because of our team. And so we continue to respond to calls for fire and police assistance with speed and effectiveness, provide clean water. Every time you turn on your tap, although I'm going to tell you that we're a little worried about what's happening in the river right now in relation to our water production, which is just like what the phone call I was just on was about. Improving our stormwater and wastewater efforts year over year, and ensuring our public parks and streets are safe and accessible. And also, last but not least, but supporting successful economic development in ways that make our city the most vibrant city in central Pennsylvania, which is something that I'm very proud of. Okay, so, I'm sorry. Our plan for the next 4 years echoes that of my first term. This is not, these categories, these 4 priorities are going to sound very familiar to you. Those are strong neighborhoods, safe places, sustainable economy, and sound government. We've tweaked them a little bit, but the intention really is a lot the same. So our neighborhoods are about our people, and the work that we continue to do through the Department of Neighborhood Engagement has been really critical to every other aspect of the work that we're doing. And so whether that's through the Department of Public Works and outreach and engagement around special projects throughout the city, whether that is through all the work that they did around census, whether that's about ARPA and ARPA engagement and what our vision is for those ARPA funds, whether that's about our comprehensive plan, which I'm going to talk a lot more about in a little bit, our Office of Neighborhood Engagement has been doing this work. And this is a picture of some kids watching some construction happening at a park that turned out to look like this. And this is an amazing partnership that is through the Pennsylvania Municipal League, Kaboom, Giant, Penn State Health, and a number of other sponsors to renovate an historic park in the southeast of our city called Milburn Park, named after Violet Milburn, whose family was on hand to help us cut the ribbon. And we still have some work to do to finish this park, but I wanted to elevate this as work that is going to continue in 22 because we are in the process of developing our next Master Parks Plan. The previous administration under Mayor Gray, they did an awesome job with the first Parks Plan. All you have to do is go visit Brandon Park, Crystal Park, Rodney Park, 6th Ward Park, and you will see the integration of green infrastructure, public art, and place space. That's really incredible. We have a lot more parks that need that kind of attention, and that is a focus area for the next 4 years. I also want to talk a little bit about the neighbors that have gone beyond just being a good neighbor, but have dedicated time and energy to participating in our Neighborhood Leadership Academy. Here's Kristen Krimmel, who's a resident who has been very involved in the south of the city. To date, 61 of our neighbors have graduated from what we call the NLA, and we are getting ready to gear up for our next class of neighborhood leaders, and we will be offering a class in Spanish this time in addition to an English class, which we're really excited about. Why does this skip ahead here? I'm pressing too hard. Okay. Whoop. All right. Our engagement efforts in 22 are about to go on steroids because we just landed a grant that will support 11 AmeriCorps VISTAs, which is just incredible. We had our first hand with AmeriCorps VISTAs thanks to Matt Johnson, who's here, who wrote our first application. And we received 2 VISTAs, and then we received another 2 VISTAs. And then we decided to go full bore with this and say we want to be the host entity, and now we are in the process of recruiting and selecting 11 VISTAs that are going to work in departments across the city, really focusing primarily on engagement. So the Corporation for National and Community Services, a federal program, is funding these positions. And so I just want to say that if you or somebody that you know is interested in being a VISTA, we still have 7 vacancies, I believe, or 6 vacancies. And so I would ask for your help to spread the word and help us recruit and hire these VISTAs that are going to be really critical to the success of our engagement efforts across all of our departments in the coming years. Okay. In 22, we will also finish the city's first comprehensive plan that the city has seen in nearly 30 years. And this is just an incredible undertaking of time investment by our staff, dedicated funding, local and national, including the Lancaster County Community Foundation. And it is the most far-reaching and sustained engagement that we have done to get deep and wide participation from all kinds of folks. You all are dialed into the city in a way that Hourglass supports, but there are many, many other residents who are not connected to organizations like Hourglass and who are still interested and eager to support the city and its future success. And so our job is to find those folks and engage them in this planning process, which will really guide the next 20 years of policy priorities. And so this is the timeline. We are in the fall, winter of 21-22, and we are in this midst of inventory and analysis. So we've done this preliminary engagement. We now are turning inward to our consultant team who are doing a lot of data analysis and data gathering. And we will then be rolling out some of that information in spring of 2022. I can say that this was launched during Mayor's Neighborhood Week last June, and we've engaged with over 2,000 residents since then, just to give you a picture of the extent of our engagement. And we're planning, as I said, to merge this community feedback with, as I said, the technical studies that are happening right now, and have hopefully a plan to be reviewed and adopted in 22-23. And so how we are doing this is important, just to ensure equity, to make sure that we're hearing from all the voices in our community. And I want to just talk a little bit about how we've engaged residents in the process thus far. So we've had resident engagement that is part of our comprehensive plan committee. They were involved in reviewing the applications for our consultant team, and they helped us select the consultant team. They've actually also been reviewing the feedback as it's been coming in. We also have been deeply involved with the Planning Commission and City Council, and additional resident leadership groups that are all part of this team. And it's vast. When you think about the number of people that are just supporting the team from both a staff perspective, as well as a resident perspective, as well as our consultant team, I'm really proud of the effort. And it's what I've realized is that the process of doing this is more important in many ways than even the outcome, because we are having conversations with our communities that are informing so much of the work that we're doing, even beyond the comprehensive planning process. So I'm really, really excited. It's definitely a marathon, but we are reaching, I think, mile marker 14 coming up here in the spring. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what's emerged from the engagement thus far. There's really been 5 priorities that have risen to the top. It's no accident that these are going to sound familiar to you in relation to the city's strategic plan, but they are affordable, safe, and quality housing options around the city, which I'm going to talk more about in a few slides. Clean and healthy air, water, and natural environments. So our environment is showing up on the top 5 list. I think that is really, really important. That city streets are safe, accessible, and inclusive of all users and ages. So whether you're a pedestrian, a cyclist, a driver, a transit user, a person in a wheelchair. That our city has intentionally inclusive, diverse, and equitable processes, resources, and outcomes. And so how are we determining how we're spending money? Are we looking at that through a lens of equity to make sure that we are distributing our resources fairly across the city? And that Lancaster's economy is strong and sustainable, and that businesses can find well-trained workers, and residents have good jobs, and that they are financially secure. Those are the top 5 pieces of thematic results that we have received after talking to a couple thousand people. And so these haven't been finalized yet. There are more residents that we are continuing to engage with, but we do want to thank everybody who's been part of participating thus far, and I'm sure that there are people in this room that have participated in this process, and if you haven't and you want to, let me know, because there are many opportunities. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about affordable housing. So in October, the City Council approved a $5 million allocation of funds, ARPA dollars, to affordable housing to get us started. As you may know, the city received $39.5 million of ARPA funds, and we are in the process of the final rules related to the expenditure of those funds came out on January 6th. And I am not lying to you when I tell you that our solicitor walked into my office this morning to have a meeting about ARPA with a binder that, I am not lying, is this thick. There are so many rules and regulations related to this funding, and the final rule has provided additional clarity, which is good news. But continuing to sort out and sift through the requirements of this feels daunting. So we have issued an RFP. I'm really pleased that we've gotten 15 responses. These are the folks that are going to help us with all the compliance and regulatory requirements of this, because I don't want to build up our staff capacity for a program that is going to end in 4 years. And so that doesn't make sense. So we're in the process of putting together a review team that will take these requests, these responses to our request, review them, score them, and make a selection to help us navigate that binder. Okay, so we know that affordable housing is a priority through the comp plan process. We know that affordable housing is a crisis in our country. Certainly, Lancaster City is no exception. We know that we can't wait until we have our comp plan finished to begin working on this, and so our community planning and economic development team put together an interim housing strategy and some goals that I want to share with you here. So we did a preliminary analysis with the Center for Regional Analysis, and we know, no surprise, Lancaster has a housing shortage and that too many families in our community are housing cost burdened, which means that they're spending more than 30% of their income on housing-related costs. And we got to get creative to do this because we got, 7.3 square miles, and that's limiting when you don't have a lot of land to build on. So we have come up with this interim strategy of producing approximately 2,000 new units. Now, this is to say, this is all in. This is private development. This is nonprofit developers. These are projects that are going to be supported by federal, state, local funds, as well as private dollars, traditional lending, et cetera. We want to make 300 of those affordable. And, we're on our way with what's going to happen on College Avenue. But we have our work cut out for us because the impacts of inflation, the continued problems with supply chain, and the disruptions because of ongoing COVID infections and how they're affecting workplace and production in general are definitely impacting the ability to get projects out of the ground right now. There is so much revision to budget right now. When I talk to folks that are doing construction projects, they cannot nail down pricing because it's changing on almost a daily basis. And so I see heads nodding in the room. This is really, really challenging right now. So I don't want to say this is a gimme. This is not a gimme. 300 units is not a gimme. Even getting those 2,000 units out of the ground is not a gimme. We want to protect the existing 14,000 units that we have in the city, and that is through our lead remediation, through our critical repair program, through some of the other tools that we have here in the city. And we want to improve 1,000 units, and that is largely through critical repair, et cetera, et cetera. So we know that we need to preserve and protect those 14,000 units, and I just want to make clear, we largely do that through systematic inspections, and it's that additional 1,000 units that we want to be really focusing on in relation to lead and critical repair. So I just wanted to clarify that if that wasn't clear. We're looking at acquiring approximately 200 units for affordability-focused redevelopment. Again, that's not a gimme because there's just very limited possibilities in terms of development of that. And a lot of private developers, for understandable reasons, are really saying affordable housing really needs to be led by mission-driven organizations because without just a straight-up subsidy, we can't pencil it out. And that's really challenging to overcome right now. We're looking at innovation, and this is something that is still we don't know exactly where this is going to go. Is this through accessory dwelling units? Is this through trying to support, we have one tiny home in the city. Is that a future for the city? And how much can we innovate around our land use and zoning? And can we basically say, we'll accept all and any ideas that you have, because we don't want to spend a lot of time revising and revisiting all of our land use and zoning for what could be like 5 units. But what we want to say to the community is we are open. The doors are open to ideas. Bring them. And then we can, let's figure out how to make it happen if we all agree that this is a good idea. And then sustaining existing affordability and neighborhood vitality. And the sustaining part of this is going to require a lot of private landlord engagement, which we are doing right now as we are revising our lead ordinances, as well as the ways in which we're doing our systematic inspections moving forward. Okay, I'm going to move on to safe places. So here on the left is a picture of our new fire station, and on the right is an artful intersection at Strawberry and Vine and a number of other streets that I can't remember the names of right now. But this is just such that was such a fun project to really elevate and highlight where the pedestrian crossings are, narrowing some of the travel lanes visually to slow traffic down at an intersection that had a lot of crashes. And so when we talk about the work that we're doing around safe places, yeah, you typically think of, safety. Truly, yes, we need our public safety to be invested in, and for us to maintain staffing levels, and for them to be supported in their work, whether you are a firefighter or a police officer. But it also means safety initiatives like this one around Vision Zero, which is literally taking data from crashes and injuries and proactively making changes at specific intersections to reduce crashes and injuries. It's that simple. And we're now working on South Duke Street. This is also part of the expanded bicycle network. We're looking at enhancements on Water Street. We are also looking at enhancements at Ann and Juniata Street to really calm traffic and make our streets safer for everyone. And I have a particular passion for this work because there is nothing that is more foolish than just expecting the problem to go away without doing anything about it. We literally know what intersections have the most accidents. And so we're prioritizing those intersections and working through a plan for how to address them. Okay, we're also supporting safety differently through our team of social workers. So you know about our police social workers, and we have the Bureau of Police to thank for kicking this effort off. And I want you to just meet Grace and Sonia and Leilani. And so Grace and Leilani are working in the police bureau, and we've just gotten some engagement survey results from our police, and they are really appreciating having the social workers on hand to help them in situations that don't require a police response, and for whom police is sometimes still first due, but when a social worker is called out to the scene, we're seeing a reduction in the number of 302s, which is data that we just got from our partners at the county at BHDS. So that's a really, really positive outcome. Need to get a sip of tea here. Sonia is our new housing caseworker. Excuse me.
I am literally 3 weeks after COVID right here. So it's just a head cold, but it's lingering. All right, let me try this again. That's a little better. So Sonia is working with our housing inspectors because, as you might imagine, our housing inspectors see a lot of things. And they're not equipped in the same way that our police are not equipped around enforcement to address some of the things that they're seeing. So I'll give you an example of a way that we've gone way beyond what we ever could have done before. which is a woman was had some mental health issues, was also hoarding, and was actually not able to live in her home anymore. And she was she was likely to lose her home. And so there was a lot of communication coordination to help get her a critical repair grant, organize neighborhood volunteers, get donated dumpsters, and literally clean out her house, and to provide her temporary housing while we did all of these things, and then invest back into her home so she could actually move back in with supports from mental health. That's what this is. It is very intensive, but it means saving a house for a family. It means saving an asset, which was their only asset this family had, was this house, and restoring that house to be a healthy and safe place for her to live with her child. So this is an example of what the work that Sonia is doing. And then I also just want to mention that in partnership with the Lancaster City Alliance, we have funded, this is a pilot project this year that we're using federal dollars and CARES dollars to fund an outreach specialist to make sure that those are on the streets are being connected to the resources they need, in partnership with the Homeless Coalition, which you might know has now transitioned from LGH Penn Medicine over to the Redevelopment Authority. We're really excited about the changes that are happening with the coalition and the work that Sarita, who is the outreach specialist, and the work that she is doing. I continue to hear from our community about how concerned everyone is about the people on our streets. And I want you all to know that it is not being ignored, and that there are upstream roadblocks and barriers to transitional living units, of which we have a dearth of, as well as ongoing supports that are necessary, that once those folks are in a transitional living unit, that they can proceed to a more stable living environment with all of the services that they need, and not revert back to being back out on the street. I'll also just tell you that a lot of the folks that we see in our community, there's a core group of folks that you see their faces and you know who they are. There are a lot of transient folks that are moving through the city that are not from Lancaster. And why that matters is that they have no familial support system, no friend support system here.Ey're often far away from that. And so that makes it really challenging to support them long term in accessing services. Okay, so now to sustainable economy, and you're gonna say, why are you showing us a picture of 5 people holding up lead prevention or lead safe Lancaster t-shirts? Well, I want to just point to the gentleman on the left, and his name is John Wright. And one of the things that we talk about related to lead is like the impacts that we have on children, but this is also an impact on our local economy, because we need contractors to go in and remediate these homes, and John is one of them. So we have hundreds of houses that the city is supporting to improve. And John is the owner of J.F. Wright Enterprises, LLC, and he is growing his business and employing folks to do lead remediation. And this picture, I just want to highlight, is, I love this story. He's on Atlantic Avenue, and there's probably a few people in this room that know where Atlantic Avenue is. Raise your hand if you know where Atlantic Avenue is. All right, okay, very good. It is a single block street that's like right across from the mix. And John delivered papers on Atlantic Avenue when he was a kid. And so now he's back on Atlantic Avenue, helping to make these properties safe for the families that live there, which means a great deal to him and to us to have local contractors engaged. I also want to talk a little bit about, and I'm really happy our Discover Lancaster partners are here. In 2021, the Lancaster Office of Promotion moved under the Office of Neighborhood Engagement, and we're going to be relaunching in 2022. And oh my gosh, you know, like,
we were so excited to do this relaunch, and then what happened? But the porta potty was lit on fire outside. I mean, like, you cannot make this stuff up. The windows blew out. There was a ton of smoke inhalation, smoke damage, and you know, displaced our whole team. We were really, really thankful that we were able to set up a stand at Central Market, which is generating a lot of foot traffic for us, and we're excited about that engagement and how we can continue that. But now we really need to invest in the visitor center. So we are meeting with our elected representatives to talk to them about RCAP funds and matching dollars to help us with capital investments to renovate this building, which was built in the 1700s and is on the National Historic Register and has served many, many important functions over the course of the city's history. One thing that has not changed and that we want to recommit ourselves to is promoting our small businesses, whether that is whether that's retail, whether that's you know, you're an artist, whether that's you're a food establishment, whatever your small business is in the city of Lancaster, we want to help continue to help as part of the COVID recovery, and that is something that we're going to be working on over the next several months. And I know I'm meeting with Discover Lancaster next week to talk about how we can continue to partner. We are seeing an uptick in visitors and visitors coming back to the city of Lancaster, which we're really excited about. And we know that when the city is successful, the county is successful, and when the county is successful, the city is successful, because people are now looking to have a lot of different kinds of experiences when they are coming to visit Lancaster County. Anything you guys want to add from Discover Lancaster about that?
I can say a couple of words.
Yeah. Ed, can you come up here and get on a microphone so that...
Sure. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here, and I'll just say a couple quick words. To the mayor's point, for Discover Lancaster, we have seen an uptick in traffic to discoverlancaster.com, really going back over the last 6 months to close the year, as things have been opening again gradually. The holiday season, we are very happy to see the turnout in the county and in the city, especially supporting those small businesses in terms of the lodging community, which impacts both the city and the countryside. The hotel community specifically finished the year very strong for 2021. And when we look at data for January, that trend has continued. So, you know, we are cautiously optimistic for 2022 if we can get past the Omicrons and the various variants and get back to the warmer weather of the peak travel season. In talking with the business community, the hotel, and the rest of the hospitality community, we think 2022 can be a very strong year as we climb out of the pandemic and see hopefully a surge in tourism and dollars back into the local economy.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, moving on to sound government, the last strategic priority. I wanted to just talk a little bit about our new city dashboard. I encourage you to check it out at Lancaster Block by Block. This includes a lot of mapping of data, and we're going to continue to add to it over time so that you can see where we're making investments of public dollars across the city as we continue to march towards our vision of a stronger, more equitable city. I did talk a little bit about our language access plan. This is Zaira Falou and Amr Al-Fayad, who is a key partner in our efforts to make sure that we are helping the 35% of our community that do not, who speak a language other than English, have access to government services that we provide on a day-to-day basis. So we're very excited about that. And I have to tell you, I recently met with a group of new residents to the city of Lancaster, some new, some have lived here longer, from various African countries, and they walked into City Hall and they saw the sign of welcome that we have in multiple different languages, and they were so appreciative. They were like, "That I can see myself here. You know, it's not all in English, and it's literally one word that says welcome." You know, and that has helped sort of approachability and like, okay, we can come here and ask questions. They're going to help us figure out how to translate what our needs are. All right. If you've been on our website lately, you've met Rosie, who is a chatbot built with artificial intelligence that's helping us answer questions that you might have about city services. She's continuously learning. Make sure you go and check that out and help her get smarter as we continue to utilize a lot of different technology to support access to information. We're also going to be launching in the next few months It Lancaster, which is just a simpler way to like get a solution. So instead of having a page of phone numbers, you will have one number. You will call that number. You will say, there's a pothole at the intersection of blank and blank streets. And then we will be able to respond, route that to our work order request. That will then be filled. It will be noted. And then you will get a message back saying, pothole has been filled. This is the kind of system that we are trying to accomplish. We're also going to be launching new permitting systems that will simplify and streamline applications and allow contractors and property owners to file building permits online. There are silver linings to COVID, and one of them is embracing technology in new ways. And also, just from a customer service and a business perspective, we want to be an easy place for you to do business. And so moving our permitting online is one part of that. All right, now I want to talk to you about money. There's a really, how many of you saw Representative Cutler's op-ed today in the paper? Anybody? Okay, one or two of you. This was, his comment in there really resonated with me, and you might find that I write an editorial about this as well, which is that you can't, once you have a baseline budget and you continue to grow that budget, you have to have income that matches. You don't just like, your budget is, when you start spending more money, you have to figure out how to get more money in the future. And that was his main point, is that as a state, you know, he has a perspective that the Governor Wolf's budget is going to grow expenditures without really growing the income that's coming in. And that is the heart of our problem in the city. So even though we saved $7.1 million in refinancing debt, which I would say is like the, you know, it's important, please don't get me wrong, but we're refinancing debt, y'all. This is not new money that's coming in. This is saving money, which is, again, very important in terms of reducing our debt service. But our expenses as a city grow at a rate of about 3 to 4% annually. That looks like contracts with police officers to give them raises, contracts with firefighters to give them raises, contracts to our AFSCME union. These are the people that work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we're talking about basically a cost of living increase on an annual basis. They're not getting bonuses. They're not getting 7% salary increases. But by and large, our expenses increased 3 to 4%. I was talking to Mayor Gray about this the other day on the phone. He's like, yeah, 3%, but over 4 years in office, that's a 12% increase in your budget. Yep, that's what it is. And what is our income increasing? Income is largely property taxes. That's the number one thing. Well, the only way you raise income through property taxes is by either raising taxes, the millage rate, or that the assessed values consistently go up year over year over year by at least 3 to 4%. And they don't. They don't. And so how do we, as a city that has seen billions of dollars of investment in Lancaster City, and yet cannot achieve the growth in our tax base to maintain what is a very modest increase? Now, what I can say is that we are able to retain and attract talent to the city of Lancaster. It's been really hard, and I'm not saying we're out of the woods by any means. It is a very competitive environment. But we will not be able to serve this city if we don't have people in those jobs, and if we are not able to fill those positions that maintain essential services. We don't have a choice, y'all. This is mandated that we provide these services to this community. So forgive me for like feeling a little vehement about this, but reading that editorial this morning just got me like, yeah, that is our problem too, Representative Cutler. And I will give him kudos. When we sat down and met with him about this, he and his chief of staff, Jake, they totally get local government. They understand what this problem is. But he is one person in Harrisburg. We need a lot of other people in Harrisburg to get with us on this. So that brings me to American Rescue Plan. I talked a little bit about this and what our priorities are related to ARPA. Very much align. I mean, obviously, affordable housing, we've already allocated $5 million. We're also looking at, we are going to be using some of these funds for replacement revenue and other investments to come. And we know that, ARPA is going to end. And the point of work that we're doing right now with financial analysts is that we have to do some long-term planning because we don't want to fall off that cliff. That water tower that you see in this picture is a very expensive investment. And that water tower is going to allow for development in areas that are in the urban growth boundaries outside of the city of Lancaster. It also means that there is going to be water pressure to fight fires and run your dishwasher and your shower at the same time in certain neighborhoods. This kind of infrastructure costs tens of millions of dollars. That stuff we have to figure out how to pay for while we're also paying for the everyday services that everybody relies on and doesn't really think that much about. So this is our challenge. This is a major focus for me in 22 is capital planning and financial planning. We have our first comprehensive capital plan. We are in the process right now of working with our financial analysts to make that an interactive calculator, if you will, so that we're mapping inflationary growth, what we might see in terms of revenue, where our debt service payments are, when our debt service payments are going to drop off, when we can space and how do we time and space the investments that we're making while we're also waiting for the conclusion and the final development of our long-term control plan, which is also going to cost tens of millions of dollars to address our combined sewer system. So we got a lot on our plate. I'm very fortunate that this year I am now named the president of the Pennsylvania Municipal League. And so I'll be using this platform to talk about these issues around local government. And this is the former president. We did a little chat. He's a counselor, Derek Green, from the city of Philadelphia. So I'm going to stop there. I talked a little bit past 12:45, but we've got about 11 minutes or so for questions. I know Diana is taking questions from our audience that might be watching from wherever you are. And those in the room are going to be moderated as well. So what do you have for me? Mr. Mann.
Are you trying to have a program to attract light manufacturing into the city? And I look at Kunzler Meats, who actually bought property outside up along 283, that decided not to build outside and stayed downtown.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say they don't have a problem getting employees. And one of the problems with, especially with immigrants, is transportation to get from, if you live in the city, you have to travel out to one of the industrial parks.
Yeah. I have a lot of conversations on a regular basis with Lisa Riggs at EDC, and she is really our pulse and in terms of who is looking and what space they are looking to accommodate in the city. And I'll say that light manufacturing, we are really fortunate to have the number of light manufacturing that's happening in the city. I think about J.L. Clark and some of the others that are on Walnut Street area, as well as Kunzler and many other smaller manufacturers that you might not even be aware of. But in terms of attracting those folks, that is really a process that we use EDC to help elevate, and then we comb through and see, is there a possibility here in terms of meeting their needs. It's becoming harder and harder, quite frankly, Art, to meet the needs related to parking and then also integrating into neighborhoods where manufacturing leaves and then it wants to come back. It's just harder because if you don't have off-street parking, it's really, really challenging. What else? Okay, over here and then I'll come back. Hi. Sorry, I'm making you.
Yeah, so I'm John Hirsch. I'm a board member on the Commonweal. But I just wanted to ask a question about housing, actually, particularly around the innovation piece. What, if anything, is the city doing to engage like smaller developers? And maybe that's kind of the answer to the question is, like you said, you're kind of taking ideas in from the community. And are there any compelling ideas that have come forth from that you think might be emulated elsewhere in the city?
So we are talking to developers of all sizes in terms of the number of properties and assets that they have. Smaller developers are largely acquiring properties, renovating them, and flipping them, which has another set of implications. We have some that are really interested in maintaining affordability over time, and that I'm talking to about how do you do that, and is that as you are potentially selling properties, how can the city help you do that in a way that they're being maintained, their affordability is being maintained over time. So those are some of the things that we've been talking about thus far, but we're going to be issuing a housing RFP in the next several weeks, is my hope, or at least 8 weeks. And that is going to be an opportunity to take any and all idea. So I can't wait to see what we get. Yeah. Adriana, you want to go next?
Adriana Atencio. In light of Vision Zero, what are the plans for a bike ped coordinator for the city?
Oh boy, that's a great question. There aren't plans for that right now because of the budget constraints that we have. We are trying to build out some more capacity within DPW. I know that's on the wish list, but I will tell you it didn't pass this year's allocation for a new staff position. And we had to make some really hard decisions about that because the number of new positions that was being requested I was not comfortable with. And so that was a no for this year, I'm sorry to say. But we'll keep striving for it. I want to come over to the other side.
Hi, Liz Martin. Thank you.
Hi, Liz.
Of the ARPA, you have $5 million identified for housing. And then you just kind of briefly mentioned here at the end, the rest for replacement revenue. I didn't know what that meant, so I just wanted a clarification on that. And then what would be priority for the remaining $34.9 million?
So
and how soon do you see that being able to be allocated, and how are different people or organizations going to be able to get that?
Yeah, so we've had to slow our roll because we were waiting for that final guidance, and there's so much compliance and regulatory, and I was really optimistic that we were going to get more of that $5 million out the door than we have thus far, and get the RFP out faster, and my team has been looking at me like, this is not going to happen on your timeline because of all of the compliance and regulatory aspects. So I've had to slow down. So the timeline now is housing's first. So we're going to issue that RFP. We're in the process of having conversation about how do we support our local economy and what does that look like to support our business community downtown and in our neighborhoods. So we're exploring that. We have some other conversations that we're exploring with partners related to childcare. We're talking about other investments in our public spaces, parks, for example. So we are this is a process very much that's being co-led between City Council and the administration. And we've gone through a very robust engagement process. So we've heard a lot from the community about what their priorities are. We're aligning what we are presenting and exploring with those priorities, and it's going to take time. And so if we get two pieces of work done this year, I will be really at a minimum. That's our baseline in terms of areas of focus. So housing is definitely going to be one of those two. And I think economic recovery is going to be the other one for 22. And then on the revenue replacement side, there's a calculation that communities who receive more than $10 million go through this calculation of figuring out how much revenue they lost because of COVID, and that's the revenue replacement that we're talking about, Liz. So we're figuring that dollar amount out. I want to say that it's we're in the neighborhood of $10 to $15 million of revenue replacement that we would be eligible for, I believe. But don't quote me on that because we're still going through the final rule and looking at the numbers in conjunction with Mayor Dussel, who's our accounting and auditing firm. Yep. Hi there. And it's yours. I can stick around for a little bit afterwards, too. Yeah.
Jerry Eckerd, first a comment and then a question. As a board member, I'm a board member of the Lancaster Library.
Yes.
And without the mayor's support and city council's support, we were frankly at a crossroad of what to do with the present facility. So your support and offer to move across the street was instrumental in continuing the services that we could offer to the citizens, not only the city, but of the county. Question, so thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay.
My pleasure.
Question, I take it you're not optimistic about additional revenue sources that the legislature could give third-class cities?
No.
Different revenues.
No, I'm not optimistic. No, I'm not optimistic, but I am not going to let the legislature off the hook either, regardless of party.
Right, right. That was...
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Mayor Sorace for all the information today and for taking time out of your schedule to be with us. And I think she said she might be able to hang out a little bit afterwards because I know there were more questions that people had. A video recording of today's talk will be available on the Hourglass website and YouTube channel sometime next week. I recommend that you share that with people in the community who would benefit from knowing more about these initiatives. And our next First Friday Forum will be Friday, March 4th. That will be with HDC Mid-Atlantic, focused on affordable housing, both here in the city and in the larger community. So I recommend that you come out to that if you're interested in that topic. And to get an invitation to all of our Hourglass events, you can become an Hourglass member on our website at hourglasslancaster.org. So until then, I hope you have a great weekend and hope to see you at the next event. Thanks.